On today's video, we'll tell you a great way to start Black Templars in ninth edition.
Welcome to Implausible Nature, home to competitive Black Templars gameplay.
And just remember that if you like what you see here or are interested in more competitive Black Templars content, please leave a like and make sure that you're subscribed. All right, on today's video, we are going to be revisiting a previous topic. We previously did a how to start video, which you can see here a while back when Indomitus first came out, and we figured it was time for a refresh on that. Since the ninth edition codex has come out for Space Marines, a lot of things have changed. Indomitus is technically no longer available. So we wanted to do a new couple of lists. We're going to start at 500 points this time, and this is for new and returning players alike. So to start off, if you have the Indomitus models, or access to get them, and you want to go mostly Primaris, Bob is going to tell us about a list that you can build using those models.
So this first list is going to be focused around the Indomitus box set. Now, it uses everything that's in there or available in there, so you won't have to buy anything outside of that box. So it starts with the Primaris Chaplain, which is a key piece to the Black Templars. It's going to be a common theme across all of these lists in that it does give litanies for our units, which is something that at 500 points is going to be very important. It does give some flexibility, and none of these litanies are really going to be set in stone, so to speak. You could change them up to give you a little bit of a change up if you so desire. But in this first one, I'm picking the Litany of Divine Protection with the Warlord trait, Frontline Commander, and a relic of the Ancient Breviary. He is not a Master of Sanctity because at 500 points you are limited on what you can do. But he is going to be escorting an Assault Intercessor squad, which is 9-man strong. No special equipment on these, so you're going to buff those up with a 5+ Feel No Pain and a little bit of an extra oomph with the Frontline Commander to get to where you need. Because we're going to be using 500 point size boards, which is 44 inches by 30 inches with 4 objectives, this is a decent sized squad with objectives secured that can get across the board and do a decent amount of damage. In an emergency, instead of the Litany of Divine Protection, you can use the Litany of Hate on that to give them some more oomph. You also have another close combat unit in the squad, which is going to be the Blade Guard Veteran Squad, the 3-man, right out of the box, that do quite a bit of damage to Marine equivalents, and even some of those other non-Marine units. They're a good, durable unit that can shoot their pistols at the 18-inch range and go into close combat and are your primary close combat unit. Then you're going to finish off your list with the Eradicator squad that will just give you some high power shots at that 24-inch range that can take out some of those durable units that your opponent may have at the 500 points that are hard for your close combat units to deal with. They can also hold on to an objective since the side of the board is much smaller than you normally would. They will likely still be in range of all of the other objectives, so they can give you some firepower that is pretty nice for you. And that's the first list that we have.
All right, I did take a look. All of these units are available individually now with multi-part kits. So if you didn't get a chance to get Indomitus, or you just prefer to get the multi-part kits, which have a good deal more options, you can do that. You can see here that the individual cost of this is retail, comes in at $195, which isn't bad for a 500-point army. All of these units are going to be useful down the road, and that's true of all the lists that we're going to talk about today. So you'll see that across the board. That being said, the Indomitus models are still very plentiful on eBay. So if you do a little bit of digging, you can get them new on sprue from eBay for probably a significant discount off of that retail. And those monopose models still look really great as well. So next up, we have a list that we sort of made based on carte blanche availability to any unit in the codex, not focusing just specifically on any one thing. So this list is definitely going to play a little differently and look a little different. It'll be a little more costly as well as far as purchasing this right out of the gate. But if you're a returning player, you may already have a bunch of these units in your armory. So Bob, why don't you tell us about this list?
Okay, this list is going to be playing a little bit more towards the objective game, which is all about what 9th edition is, right? So 500 points, the more units that you can get on the board, the better you can play the objective game. So we have Chaplain Glamardus, who, like in the previous list, has some differing options that he can do for his litanies. I chose the Litany of Divine Protection and the Fires of Devotion here, and he is obviously the Warlord, so you're going to get some psychic defense from him as well. For our troops, because you do have to select one troops in a patrol, we use the bog standard Crusader Squad. At 75 points, they're steel. You're not going to take any scouts with these. There's going to be the 75-point unit, and they do very well at their 75 point, especially at this points level. 2 wounds a pop, so it's going to be pretty difficult for an opponent to take down, but they're going to be there for taking those objectives, not necessarily advancing, so to speak, but they could if you needed them to. And that's kind of what Chaplain Grimaldus is there for, with his Litany of Divine Protection. He could also support the Blade Guard Veteran Squad that we have here. This is going to be 4-man squad, so this is going to be the bulk of your close combat prowess in the list. And a 4-man squad is going to be pretty tough to deal with for any opponent at the 500 points level. Rocking at 140 points, they hit well above their weight. Now, they still are foot-based. They're not going to be fast, but with the smaller sizes of the board, they can pretty much take on whatever you need. They're a great screening unit if you need to block incoming traffic coming to your objectives, or a great counter-assault, or even just playing them aggressively to take those opponents' objectives. In the fast attack, we do need some Melta, just like in the previous list. We need something that's going to be able to take and put some wounds on some heavier units that you're invariably going to see in an opponent's list. So an attack bite with a multi-Melta is a great way to put some Melta shots onto your opponent for pretty cheap. They're very fast, durable. They have access to stratagems to give them some protection. You have 55 points with a multi-Melta shot and the twin bolt gun on your attack bite. You can't go wrong with them in 500 points. And to finish it off, your home objective is going to be parked on by the classic Grav Devastator Squad. Now, I talked about this in a previous video about how they're going to be very, very important in competitive gaming, and they are going to be overpowering in 500 points. Anything that gets close to them, they're going to be in range, 30-inch range on all these guys. They're going to mow through pretty much any Marine that doesn't have a Storm Shield. Very, very cost-effective unit for 135 points, and that finishes off the list. It's going to play really well to the objective games. You got 2 shooting units to give you that fire support, 1 dedicated close combat unit, and a backup close combat unit in your Crusader Squad that has objectives secured, that can be buffed with Chaplain Grimaldus to give them a little bit more oomph when you need them to.
Definitely a deadly list. Obviously going to be, like I said before, a little bit more costly, as you can see here, in purchasing these units if you don't already have them. A big chunk of this cost is going to come from the having to buy 2 boxes of Devastators, because you only get 2 heavy weapons in a box of each type. So to get 4 grav cannons, you will need 2 boxes, and that is a good chunk of this list in dollars. Retail, of course. You may be able to find the bits online or trading through, a Discord or a forum or something like that, Facebook, for cheaper. But yeah, the other thing too is that Blade Guard only come in a box of 3, so you will have to find a 4th model that you can use for this. But again, I mean, like I said earlier, the Blade Guard and the Indomitus characters, the Lieutenant and the Captain, are all pretty cheap on eBay. You should be able to get one of those characters for, maybe 10 or 15 bucks, and you can use him as a Blade Guard in a pinch for something like this, and then use him as the character that he's supposed to be later on down the road. So yeah, Bob, thank you for those two great lists. I think those are going to be great lists to get folks started into Black Templars, and will form a good core of units that are going to carry them through up until 2,000 points in competitive games. So lastly, we want to talk about a list that I made that is also 500 points. This list sort of came about, somebody on another Discord mentioned that they didn't think that Space Marines were all that great at 500 points because they are neither numerous enough nor durable enough to really play well. And my first thought was, yeah, hold my beer. So I put together this list that you can see here. It's got the 10-man fully kitted out Vanguard Veteran Squad led by a chaplain in a jump pack, and then a almost bare bones Crusader Squad as the only other unit choice here. There were a few points left over, so I gave them a grav cannon. So this list, though, is definitely going to be a little bit more of a higher skill cap because it is very eggs in one basket. You only have two, really technically three, if you count the chaplain, units to do stuff with, and objectives are important. You will need to capture objectives. You can also just try to kill everything with the Vanguard Vets, which may or may not go your way depending on dice. So definitely this list requires, I think, a little bit more finesse, but it's going to be scary and fast, and those Vanguard Vets can be in your opponent's face in turn one for sure. So Bob, what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, it's a pretty dangerous unit that those 10-man Vanguard are at 500 points. There's not going to be a lot that your opponent can throw at it that can take it down. The downside is what you mentioned. It's 300 of your points are eaten up by the Vanguard veterans. They can't be in all places at once, but they'll kill pretty much anything that they charge, unless it's something with a storm shield or equivalent that your opponent charges into them, and that is one of the downsides of the list. I even think that objective secured spam lists probably can't deal with this list, especially if you combat squad the Vanguard veteran squads. So that's something as an option for you as well. So it's definitely a rock list. It has a pretty scary outlook for your opponent right off from the get-go, and they're going to be scrambling to try and figure out how to deal with that unit. So yeah, it's a great start.
And it also is, interestingly enough, our cheapest list to purchase with a retail cost. Because there's so few actual boxes that you need to buy, it comes in at just 170 bucks. So pretty cheap. And especially the Vanguard Vets will absolutely carry you well into 2,000 points. You know, this is a unit that will serve you well for a long time, and a little bit more challenging to play, but definitely playable nonetheless. 500 point list. So I think that about wraps it up for today. We will have another series, another video of this coming up soon. Bob, why don't you tell us about that one?
So we're going to be going this in stages. So the next video will be the 1,000 point mark, and then we'll move on to the 2,000 point mark. So our next video, we are going to try and build on what we've started here for a core, but it is not necessarily going to continue to be using some of these units. It's important to note that as you progressively get larger armies, units sometimes need to change based on what you're potentially going to see on the board. Today's meta is really fast. It's a lot of Marines, durable units, and you need to adapt to that. But this is a great place to start to get your forces on the board, and you're going to be playing some games, especially at the 500 point, and see what works and what doesn't. And we're going to do that as best as we can to utilize these units for the next couple of videos, because none of the units that we used in any of these lists are bad units. They're probably some of our most competitive in their slots. So as Alex has mentioned in his portions of the video here, is they scale very well. In many top tier lists that use Black Templars in the recent months have used these units. So it's not going to be something that's going to be wasted by purchasing into the future. You just may not use them in all of your competitive lists, especially at the 2,000 points. One of those opportunity areas also going to be the HQs, because those are going to be really interchangeable depending on the list and what you're trying to do. So you may have more than one or two different kinds of HQs depending on your list. So that's just something to think about as we go forward. But having some versatility in your lists and your models is a great place to start. This is just going to be a basic guide for you to build off of, change as you see fit. But we feel they're competitive at these particular points levels, and we'll get you started into the great army that's the Black Templars.
So that about wraps it up for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you want to see more content like this, hit that subscribe button and make sure you click the bell icon to get notified on all of our latest content. We have a Patreon and we greatly appreciate their support. So if you'd like to get some exclusive content or you'd just like to support the channel, we really appreciate it. Also, be sure to check out our Discord. We have an active community of players on there where you can get lots of help or discussion on all things Black Templars. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.